Welcome to Brain Wrestling. My name is Derek Christopher. Of course, I am here with Walter Jacobson. Walter, what a great guest we have today. I'm so excited to have this gentleman on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Father Steve Porter. Father Steve, good to see you.
Good to see you guys too. I've never done this before, so I have no idea what to do. But there you go.
That's perfect. Now, Walter, Father Steve, of course, has an incredible background. He did a hit show on Catholic TV for a couple of years called Divine Intervention. He's got another show in development right now about exorcisms called Cleaning Houses.
Vade retro Satanas. Get thee behind me, Satan. This will be the truth. I will not make things up. I will not lie. I will show you things that you probably never thought could ever exist.
And what a life. I mean, born in India, raised in South Africa. He went to seminary in Italy. He knew Pope John Paul II. He used to translate the speeches for the Vatican. He knew Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa wanted him to come on her pilgrimages. And just an incredible background.
Not quite. Let me interrupt.
Yeah.
She didn't want me to go on her pilgrimages. She wanted me to go and work in the slums of Calcutta with her.
And you said no.
She said the Indian government does not allow Catholic priests into the country anymore. But you were born there.
And so why'd you say no?
Because I don't want to work in the slums in Calcutta. Sorry, I know. I'll do what I can for the poor, always, but not the slums in Calcutta.
And now in Father Steve's career, all of a sudden, he has become a mandated exorcist for the Catholic Church, which is incredible. And I think, Father Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think there are only about 150 exorcists in the Catholic Church in the entire country.
In the United States, I believe it's something like that, yes.
Okay.
Pope Francis has sent out a letter to all the bishops across the world, telling them all that you must have an exorcist in your diocese. You must appoint one in your diocese. And
now,
get him
how do they pick you? Do they sort of look at all the priests and go, okay, who is the devil going to be the most afraid of? And they go, Father Steve is the guy that's going to kick the devil's ass.
I have no idea how they picked me, but one thing did come out kind of in a discussion a couple of years after I was picked, and that is that, well, I actually know Latin.
Wow.
And not many priests do these days, sadly.
And why is that significant to being an exorcist?
Because the devil hates Latin.
Because
it's the language of the church. I have a good friend who's a priest. It's the language Jesus used. Latin.
Okay.
Not true.
I think we should just jump right in. Derek told me that you actually have been involved with exorcisms and seeing all sorts of weird crazy physical phenomena.
I have seen slugs vomited out of someone's throat, nails.
Could you tell us about one of your more amazing things for our viewers?
Absolutely. I've actually been involved with deliverance ministry, as we call it, for about 20 years. And just before I get to that, Walter, just talk a little bit about Latin. In 1999, after the Second Vatican Council, the Vatican produced the updated, modernized, renewed ritual of exorcism. And they sent it out to all the exorcists that were there in the world at that time. And about 6 months, 8 months later, and it was in Latin, of course, only in Latin. And it comes back about 6, 8 months later, these guys say it doesn't work. We're going back to the old form, which was published in 1604 before that, 1604, which does work. So the Pope at that time, which was John Paul II, sent it to a certain Cardinal Ratzinger, who later became Benedict XVI, and said to him, you're a theologian, you're a philosopher, you speak Latin, tell me why this isn't working, make it work. And after about 5 years, in about the year 2004, he produced the new rite in Latin. And that rite was then translated into English and Spanish and French and German and the major languages. And once again, exorcists say, yes, this one works. It does work. It's tough, however. And it doesn't work so well in the modern languages. Stick to the Latin.
Now, is it just because it's the devil doesn't understand Latin, or why is that old language so important?
Well, the devil does understand Latin. That's the problem.
Yeah.
and he just hates it because it is the official language of the Catholic Church still to this day. We don't have Mass in Latin like we used to have Mass in Latin in every church in the world, across the world. We use the modern languages, but all the official documents are still published in Latin, and the official decrees and things of that nature all come out in Latin first.
Wait a second. Wait. Is that the idea? Is that just to piss off like the devil so he'll get out of there? Like just do stuff that really irritates him, like playing like classical?
Absolutely. Of course.
That's it.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are many other ways that'll excuse my language, but you use it first. Piss off the devil as well. Such as like certain saints, mentioning certain saints' names in an exorcism, like Padre Pio, for instance. Say Padre Pio. Devil hates him, absolutely hates him completely.
Yeah.
He was such a holy man. He was such a holy man. And then you've got someone like Saint Mary Goretti, who was a young girl who was being raped and died because she refused to allow the rapist to have her, as it were. So the rapist killed her in Italy. And, she's purity, perfect purity. The devil hates that as well. He hates that as well. He hates humility. So St. Francis of Assisi, the devil hates him.
Well, let me ask you this, because I was looking up ways that the devil can get into people, and I want to go through these, and you can expand on them and tell me what you think. One of them that they said is ongoing sin. When you fail to confess and repent for your sin, you sort of have an agreement with the devil that you're sort of going along with the devil. Is that a true statement that like the 7 deadly sins? I mean, if you have ongoing sin, does that let the devil in?
If it's one of the big ones, if it's one of the 7 deadlies, as you mentioned, okay?
Yeah.
If it's the little sins, sin is always a portal. That's the word we use, a portal. It's always a portal. If it's one of the big deadly ones, rape, incest, murder, gluttony, those kind of big things, it's a bigger portal than just, telling a few white lies. I say to people, actually, there's no such thing as a white lie. They're all lies. It's against the 10 Commandments, so it's kind of an important one. But there are a lot of little sins that God forgives us even before we confess in the church, as long as our hearts are, saying to God, I'm sorry I did that again.
Okay, but there's got to be something more. It's got to be more than just people do it, sinning and stuff. I mean,
yes.
What's the big one that says, okay, this guy, I'm getting in there and I'm going to mess him up?
Okay, I'll tell you some of the big ones. Ouija boards, for instance. Ouija boards is a great portal. Tarot cards, another portal. Any kind of sorcery or any kind of trying to foretell the future, trying to, convince people that you can tell them what the future is.
Now, what about like horoscopes and astrology?
Absolutely. Those two as well. They're both, mumbo jumbo.
Does that like change your mind or your consciousness so that opens the door? And somehow, if you're into that kind of stuff, then you're sort of inviting that in?
Yes, you are. Yep.
Yeah, because I find that
subconsciously, perhaps, not intentionally, but you are.
When people get into horoscopes and whatnot, I think, well, I wonder if you change your life to work around the horoscope as opposed to the horoscope actually reading something in your life. So maybe that's sort of the opening that you're sort of expanding to what it's telling you should.
That could be the case. However, you think about horoscopes, for instance. There was a beautiful song written in England, sung by a couple called Michael Flanders and Donald Swan, back in the 50s, and it's a horoscope, and they say Saturn wheeling through the stars, Mars, and I'm not getting it exactly right, but they're singing it.
And I gaze at the planets in wonder, at the trouble and time they expend, all to warn me to be careful in dealings involving a friend.
Mars and Mercury circling the sun and going through the constellations of wherever, just to tell me to be careful in dealings with a friend. And it's a hilarious song. It really is.
Well, here's one actually for both of you that I find interesting from a psychiatric point of view and from a spiritual point of view. One thing that I read was they said traumatic experience can open people up to possession, to spirits,
Yes.
to the devil.
Yes.
It says when a person goes through a traumatic experience, sometimes a demon can gain access. Being sinned against or exploited can open the door. Being sexually abused, physically abused, verbally abused.
Yes, absolutely. It depends on the reaction to the traumatic experience. If
Also,
I mean, seeing I'll explain that, but seeing something like a road accident, a nasty road accident, which you were not planning on doing at all. You had no intention of being in that spot when, this car went out of control and killed 6 pedestrians on the side of the road, or whatever it might be. It's what happens to a person after something like that, like sexual abuse, for instance, like being raped. You lose some kind of, you become despondent to humanity. And even people who believe in God can turn and say, God, why did you let this happen? I can't understand why you let this happen. Or people who don't believe in God, or maybe don't have very much of a belief in God, can just, get so depressed and despondent that they let down their guard, and this little noise in your ear whispers,
I can help you.
Did you hear? I was whispering because that's how it is. I can help you.
Walter whispers that in my ear every weekend.
But what's the devil's end game for jumping in there to somebody who's vulnerable? I mean, they used to have the thing about signing your soul to the devil, or what's it hanging out there for? What's it want to do?
I would imagine the devil wants chaos. He wants the world to be in chaos.
I'm asking the expert, okay? Hell out of here.
Oh my gosh, don't say that. Don't say that. He wants your soul. Yes, he does. He absolutely wants the soul. If he can get your soul, and by getting your soul, he can cause that chaos that Derek was talking about, and get some other people's souls at the same time, he's even more happy. He's even more happy. Because people who get into being possessed or obsessed with the devil and with evil like that often bring other people in.
Okay,
going
so
back to what Walter said,
what?
beyond that though, so he gets your soul, he gets lots of souls. What does he do then? So let's say he gets everybody's soul. Then what?
They burn in hell for all eternity, which is where the devil is burning in hell already.
Yeah.
Now the devil, as you know, was created by God.
Yeah.
He was. One of the names of the devil is Lucifer, and that's a bad name now. But what does Lucifer mean in Latin? It comes from 2 Latin words, lux, meaning light, and pharaoh, meaning I carry. So Lucifer means the angel that God created to carry the light. And he fell. He fell because he couldn't deal with the way God was explaining to the angels how history was going to unfold. And he rebelled against God, and he took a lot of other angels with him, convinced a lot of other angels out of heaven. And they are in hell for all eternity, burning in hell. They get a little respite if they are allowed out of hell to possess somebody on this earth, or to infest a house or a car, or even animals sometimes, to possess them, and to wreak havoc, to bring havoc in the world. They get a little respite from hell.
Is there a lot of competition between these guys in hell who want to get out for the thing?
Body retro Satanas. Get thee behind me, Satan. This will be the truth. I will not make things up. I will not lie. I will show you things that you probably never thought could ever exist.